Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Stando TV, and today we're going to talk about the slippery slope that is microtransactions in video game. In particular, we're talking about a game that isn't really for me, like it's NBA 2K18. It's not my type of game, but apparently, according to users around the web, the NBA 2K18 has probably the worst microtransaction implementation in video games to date. And if you're wondering why people like me complain about microtransactions all the time, is because I see where it's going. I see where the end game is. And that's why you see people like Jim Sterling or Angry Joe or Total Biscuit talk about how microtransactions implementation in video games is, especially premium games, is never a good idea. Now, if the game is free, if it's a freemium game, I can allow it and kind of get by that, especially if the game is good. But when it comes to a game that you automatically put $60 up for, man, it's just crazy. Video games are crazy with microtransactions, and primarily, usually, it's the loot box system, right? That we're all preaching about and stuff. And a lot of people say, "Oh, it's cosmetic." Well, it might be cosmetic now, but it will not be cosmetic down the road. You give a publisher an inch, they'll take a mile. That's certainly the case with NBA 2K18, where the microtransactions are affecting the gameplay dramatically. In order to be good at the game with your custom character, you have to grind out several games in order to get your player upgraded to a decent competitive state. Some players are reporting that this takes over 300 games to achieve. Not only that, but the in-game currency is also used to purchase individual custom items like tattoos, haircuts that are one-time consumables, clothing, all that stuff. One-time consumables. Now, microtransactions are not new to sports games. I know FIFA has them, but at least you're getting a full player roster out of the FIFA ones, right? You can kind of select which ones you want, your fantasy draft picks, all that good stuff. But here, it is literally affecting gameplay, as you're not even able to do a good layup until you have so many VC points. And you can either grind it out. Yes, you can grind it out. But it's very hard to grind it out and be successful if you're not good at it in the first place, which makes you grind longer. And people are just having a headache and going to say, well, that's what the microtransactions are for. So you can pay to get ahead. You can pay to get ahead in NBA 2K18. And it's bad shit. And players are not standing for it. It's being review bombed right now. Review bombed everywhere by the player base. They are not happy. And this raised another problem, because one of the reviewers of the game for a major outlet, we're talking about the Sixth Axis outlet, put up their review score and talked about how microtransactions were so toxic to the game and gave the game a 3 out of 10. And immediately after the review went up, almost, it seemed like they had to pull that review score down because they were contacted by 2K with concerns about their reviews and protests to microtransactions. And since they put the score back up, they reinstated it and they removed the word protest, but they shouldn't have even been bothered by the reviewer in the first place. If they want to put up a protest score, they are within their right. What threat does 2K have? I'll tell you, they'll pull advertising off their site. This is the pressure that comes to major media outlets, right, over review scores. They will pull the advertising from their site, and they will pull the free review copies that are supposed to be, that you're supposed to get before their embargo or whatever. So if they pull off that support, your site becomes irrelevant, because your site is getting reviews out later because they're having to actually pay for their review copy, and because there's no advertisements on their site, they're bleeding money and they can't afford to buy every single game, and they're having to lay off people and things like it. It's a big mess, and this is a problem within video game industry. because that's how big the hold these publishers have over the media outlets that are supposed to serve us, the consumers. We thrive and depend on review scores, and we need legitimate, honest reviews to make informed purchasing decisions. And that's why a lot of people are leaving these media outlets. Nobody's really reading IGN anymore. Nobody's really reading GameSpot anymore. They're instead going to other influencers like here on Twitch or on YouTube and asking the people who are actually playing the game what they think, because that is probably more reliable to ask a person who's not getting advertisement from the publisher, or probably isn't even getting a review copy from the publisher, their honest opinion. In theory, the media outlets are a good idea because, like I said, they're supposed to serve us, the consumer, and making an informed decision, while at the same time trying to help sell copies of the game. But this, when publishers have a stronghold on what the outlet is allowed to say, that becomes a huge problem. And we as Crusaders talk about this slippery slope because the video game premium market, the one that you pay $60 for, copies a lot from the mobile market. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but there are a lot of mobile games that have you wait 24 hours until you can make move, unless you're willing to pay to keep moving now. And that's why we have grinds in video games. That's why we have shitty sections of gameplay in our video games now. Back in the day, back when PlayStation 1 and Super Nintendo and things like that were a thing, RPGs put grinding elements to extend the gameplay because they had to make it worth your value purchase, and it was due to hardware limitations at the time. These days, games like Skyrim are less about the grind and more about the missions, the overall world, the overall scope of things. Even The Witcher 3 rewards you on completing missions rather than going out and just slaughtering a bunch of monsters. So we know that RPGs can move forward and give us great experiences that are long and in depth with lots of story without having the grind anymore. However, one game style that didn't used to have microtransactions, the action adventure title, right, where you constantly progressed, you constantly learned new things, never had microtransactions. Yet today, Shadow of Mordor is going to have microtransactions. Destiny has microtransactions. Assassin's Creed has microtransactions, and it's just stupid. Why do they add these grindy parts to these games? Because the RPG market has went grindless, while the action RPG fun thing has went non-grindless. Because when you think action adventure, you don't think about the grind, and people tend to gravitate towards those titles because they only want the 8 or 12 hour experience. But look at how much money these companies are going to be making from you out of that 8 to 12 hour experiences if they can increase the playtime to 16 hours. And a lot of people say, oh, but that's what keeps the servers online. That's what keeps everything going. That's what keeps the development of the game going. We're talking about multi-billion-dollar industries, guys. Do you know that Destiny 2 is making like $2 million a day off of light microtransactions? Don't even get me started on how much Rockstar makes off of GTA Online, which, again, that's an online portion of the game. All right, maybe it's okay, it's different, at least it didn't infect single player, maybe, whatever. It's just mind-baffling how people still fall for the defenses of microtransactions and how easy it is to like defend it. Oh, it doesn't affect gameplay. Well, it's starting to. Oh, it's only cosmetic. It's a have not behind a paywall scenario. Anyway, guys, I can pull my hair out of this all day. Basically, let's summarize here. Microtransactions are bad. Microtransactions are starting to affect gameplay. People are getting pissed off and giving bad reviews on games publishers have too much influence over media outlets, making them remove bad scores because they don't agree with their microtransactions or whatnot. And that's essentially what we've talked about today. Microtransactions are becoming online casinos that are targeting children. It's just baffling to me how the Federal Trade Commission hasn't stepped in yet. Rest assured, though, it probably won't be long, because some kid is going to make a terrible mistake, and there's going to be this huge lawsuit, and sooner or later the Federal Trade Commission is going to step in, and maybe they fix it, maybe they won't. Maybe they just add what the drop rates are and say that's the best we can do. Maybe they say, hey, you've got to be 18 to purchase or something. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. But there's just too much money being made off of microtransactions, and the only way to stop it is to keep talking about it, keep discussing it, and eventually, hopefully, consumers quit buying it and quit buying into the stupid reasons why they exist in the first place. Because I'm telling you, all the reasons that the game publishers are telling you that microtransactions exist in order to further develop this game or further develop the next game is bullshit. Anyway, until next time, guys, remember that I love your face. See you on the flip side. Have a good one.